Good morning, everybody. It is Friday, May 17th, 2024. This is a meeting of the Boardwalk and Beach Committee on Friday the 17th. Again, I call this meeting to order at 9:01 a.m. With that, I'd like to do roll call, and this is everybody's opportunity to speak up for the microphone because this is being recorded. And we'll start on my left. Howard.
Present.
Patricia.
Here.
Honey.
Here.
Jimmy.
Here.
Steve.
Here.
Brian.
Yep.
And Mayor Mills is here. By the way, after former Chair Jay Legree stepped down, I offered to be acting chair, and I was authorized by the commissioners to take this seat for a while. If you recall, well, you may not recall, but ongoing conversation is about committees, sponsored by Commissioner Sharp there. And on the table for many meetings, we've been talking about the possibility of sunsetting committees, all the committees, and instead forming a single generalist committee. And so while that conversation is going on, is still ongoing, I directed each of the committees to stop meeting, but for, but for addressing ongoing business. And so that's why we have a limited agenda here. This is just business. I went, and Patricia went with me back through the old agendas and identified content that was unfinished. So that's why we have that limited. So with that, we do have a time constraint. We don't have anything after this, but we'll make sure that we're done in under 2 hours. With that, I did want to remind everybody very quickly of the mission statement. As I recall from many years ago, I first chaired this committee, I think, in 2008, when our mission was to rebuild the boardwalk. And then after the boardwalk was built, we had a hiatus. And then when Paul Coons came on as mayor, he reappointed me as chair of the new Boardwalk and Beach Committee. And then here I am again, full circle. So the mission, as I recall, I don't think it's changed, is basically to protect the beach and the boardwalk as major assets of the town. And of course, the picture up there kind of illustrates in the good days, and here's some pictures in the bad days after storms. And again, it's all about the beach and the boardwalk as major assets. With that, we're going to go on to approval of the minutes. The last meeting of this group was actually July 28th, 2023. Minutes have been distributed ahead of this meeting. And so are there any corrections to those minutes?
I move adoption of the minutes as presented.
I second.
So we have a motion by committee member Howard Menaker and a second by member Jimmy Horty. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And the motions are unanimously approved. I abstained. The next bit of business is correspondence, and there has been none identified, Patricia, I don't believe. With that, we're going to go and we're going to change the sequence of our ordering here a little bit. The next item of business is going to be a report by Henry Matlos, Public Works Director. He and I are going to tag team some of this, but we're going to start off with a status report on the Beach Patrol building. Because that contains additional reporting on where Beach Patrol headquarters are going to be this year and how we're going to deal with public restrooms. And then we'll go into the next item of business, which is readiness of the boardwalk for the beach for this coming season. I'm losing my voice, obviously. Henry, go ahead, and I'll tag team with you. My photos here, just to accompany some of what you're saying, are the old building, and then an aerial from Google taken, I guess, within the last month or so, that shows the demolition being done. Let me go ahead and do these. So the pictures on the easels, all these pictures are on easels downstairs in the foyer, where you can get, these are actually photographs of those pictures. And so they're distorted a little bit because of the way they're taken. But this one is shows the two garages for the SUVs, ATVs. And this is with your back facing the ocean. Similar here, your back is somewhat facing the ocean. Remember, the first floor is all public restrooms except for medical area here. And then the entire second floor is for the beach patrol. This is with your back, you're facing the ocean at this point. This is the main entrance here for the beach patrol to go upstairs to the second floor. This is again with your back, or you're facing the ocean. Changing rooms, entry to the men's restroom on this side, power generator. Go ahead, Henry, and tell us a little bit about the time frame and our schedule and how we're doing so far.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Well, at first, I think you're all aware that when installing the sheet piling a couple months ago, we hit debris at the end near the boardwalk. So that did take a little longer than anticipated. And we just, the contractor just finished yesterday with installing the timber piles. That took longer than anticipated, hit some debris and also some very, very hard soil, which we actually had to auger and use basically a steel I-beam with a vibrator in order to get through it. So again, that did take longer than anticipated. However, like I mentioned, just finished yesterday. The crane is still on site. They're going to be taking that down today and Monday and moving it off-site Monday. So going from here, it will be the pouring of the framing and then pouring of the foundation. So we're really trying to work very closely with the Sands and the Admiral Hotel and Grotto Pizza in minimizing the impact to them. Going forward, the worst of it should be when we have to bring concrete trucks in order, to pour the concrete. And as mentioned, we're really trying to work with our partners on that. Unfortunately, the Grotto reported yesterday that they had a sewer backup, and I was on site there this morning before coming here with the contractor management, Caswell Plumbing, and our wastewater department to investigate that. And unfortunately, they were scheduled to open today. So I don't have any more details on that, but right after this, I'm gonna head back down there.
Thank you. So the original time frame for this was such that the demolition would have been done months and months ago. For the summer, this summer, we were anticipating, if the schedule went as determined, that the first floor would have been done in entirety, which means the public restrooms would have been able to be open at that time. And then take the summer off and then come back post-summer and complete the rest of the building, specifically focusing on, of course, the second floor. So because we got a late start, that's not going to happen. So in the meantime, that's going to be, adding another half a season to the project? Do you have an anticipated end time on this?
Well, the scheduled date was end of February of next year. And don't know how it'll go. It'll go past that, but I firmly believe we'll be able to make it for next season for
So
sure.
maybe we'll catch up in
Yes.
something. Okay. So in the meantime, Henry, we have displaced the men's and women's public restrooms and the Beach Patrol medical station and the Beach Patrol headquarters. So let me flip through some slides here. Orient yourself. This is, I guess, taken from the, one Virginia. This is the Pennsylvania Railroad House. This is the area, 2 lots in front of the Pennsylvania Railroad House that are owned by the city. The city also owns this road here and the parking lot here. So here is a boardwalk level picture of that area there. The men's and women's trailers are actually each trailer has men's and women's in it. I'll show you a picture of that, but this is them actually in place. Patricia, somebody provided me this photo. With that, here's kind of what they look like. Here, they're very nice, so obviously they're scale above porta potties. Each one has, the men's has 2 stalls and 3 urinals, and the women's have 4, 4. So that gives us, with 2 trailers, doubling those number of facilities. Also, there's handicap restroom in the front of each trailer. So that adds another restroom facility to that. Again, they're very nice looking, and I think they are just short 1 or 2 stalls or fixtures from what we had in the old building. So hopefully this should work fine. Unfortunately, because of some delays, and we're not able to match our program where we would have had public restrooms open for this summer, we had to rent these, so it was an extra cost. I think $100,000 was possibly put in the agenda for that. So do you have anything else you'd like to offer about the Beach Patrol building?
No, not about the Beach Patrol, about the temporary restrooms. That pretty much sums it up. We have Moby mats installed to go to the ADA, ADA restroom. The water and sewer is hooked up. The electricity, we're still waiting on Delmarva Power. The transformer that is supplying power is at the corner of Lakeview, nearest the Pennsylvania Railroad building. So they didn't want an inspection. Well, when they came out to hook it up, they're going to have to do some work on that. So we're trying to get them out here as quickly as possible, because that'll actually take a construction crew in order to make those repairs.
All right. So the picture here is absent a trailer for the Beach Patrol. I don't know if that's in place yet, but the Beach Patrol headquarters will be located in the same area. And then where the information kiosk is down at the Delaware Avenue restroom, that is where the medical facilities will be. Is that correct, Chief? Yeah. So for medical, you go down there. I don't know if they're squeezing in alongside the chamber that runs the visitor center or information kiosk down there. And I would suggest that as we finish each topic, feel free to raise your hand. Members of the public, same thing. Just as we go along, if you have any questions, bring them up there. Remember, one of our major focuses today is observations about the readiness of the beach and the boardwalk. So you can bring those up anytime, and Patricia will make sure to make note of any questions or challenges or critiques about. Jimmy?
I just had one question. With the added cost of these, are the city employees going to be cleaning them, or is that part of the contract that the vendor that we got these trailers from, are they responsible?
Well, we got the trailers from United Rentals, and we are renting them through the end of October, at what time they'll be removing those 2, and well, I'm sure earlier they'll be able to remove the the Beach Patrol trailer. But the contract for the cleaning of the restrooms is with the Blakes, and they're the ones that will be cleaning it with our building and grounds people going there. We also have a small shed there for supplies, toilet paper, and United Rentals has been very good about it. They also gave extra toilets and extra toilet seats for any for damage and whatnot that may occur.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, Patricia and then Howard.
Question, how will the public, will there be signage on the boardwalk? How will the public know that they can use these restrooms?
At the construction site, we've had a couple signs made that basically say restrooms to the left to Rehoboth or Delaware, 2 blocks to the left, or excuse me, 1 block to the left, 3 blocks or to the left to go to Delaware, and 4 blocks to the right to go to Grenoble.
So there's
And-
there won't be any signage in front of these trailers on the boardwalk?
It's something we haven't talked about, but something we can do. And I think this is one of those things there's going to be a learning curve, and we have to be fluid with things, and that may be something that could work. But we have those signs ready to go on the for the
And just to be clear,
construction
so
site.
in front of these trailers will be the trailers for the lifeguards? Are they going to be in the same co-location?
The lifeguard one is closer to the VIA.
It's,
Oh, okay.
Can you just say on the screen here, that's the, southwest corner of the VIA right here. And so my guess, Henry, is that it's going to be, the trailer will be back here behind this one.
Yeah, and it is installed right now. It's in place right now. But
I just
again, we
didn't
don't
want it
have
to
power
block-
yet.
I was worried it would block the
Yeah, no,
restrooms. and
no.
so
Yeah,
that-
you know,
that was the
it's out of the
question.
way, and that's also where our shed is also, that'll house the toilet paper and other supplies.
Thank you.
Well, Patricia, if I can just add on, Howard, one of my observations was adequate signage for the temporary restrooms and beach patrol offices and medical center. So maybe you could put that in there as a generic for everybody, and then we'll make sure that we have the administration look at the adequacy there, because medical would be one direction and restrooms the other. Howard?
Well, sort of building on that, so as I understand it, Henry, construction's going to continue on the site throughout the summer. And so my question is, how does that impact the boardwalk itself? Do we have to squeeze down the pedestrian access to the boardwalk? And how are we going to notify the public that is it's an active construction zone, that, they need to be more careful, whatever the consequences are for the visiting public?
I put on the screen the Google aerial there from some time ago, and you can see the fencing on the boundary of the project area here. So there's going to be no, I don't know, I guess there's going to be a sidewalk open on this side right now, correct, Henry? But not the other side, and then at some point they'll reverse access.
That's right, Mayor. Right now, the south side sidewalk is open to give access, and the north side near the sands is closed. When Delmarva Power has to do some transformer work, that will flip-flop. And that work will probably take 3 to 4 weeks. And then we're, definitely pushing on the contractors to attempt to get both sidewalks open as quickly as possible. But for a good portion of the beginning of the summer, it will be just one of the sidewalks open. And also, we'll be pushing to get the fencing on the boardwalk moved in as much as possible.
But here you can see where the fencing is right now on the boardwalk. It only occupies what encroaches 5 to 8 feet into the boardwalk right now. So that's what, 43 feet wide there. So we're still leaving 30-some foot of width there.
And I do think as with the the pilings install completed, we'll be able to get more boardwalk and sidewalk. And that's something next week before Memorial Day, that's something we'll definitely focus on with our construction manager.
Very good. Anything else about the building? Go ahead.
Just again, as those changes happen, if we can be sure that the city notifies people, whether it's the lines in the sand or whatever, because people are going to see construction, they're not going to know how much access there is, they're not going to know which sidewalks are closed or open. So I think we need a constant stream of information for visitors this summer.
Put that as an observation, if you would, Patricia. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Brian?
Henry, just to swing back to the bathrooms 1 second, you did mention Delmarva Power. Do you anticipate them having what they need to do, the installation by Memorial weekend?
I'm sure hope so, and I'm pushing with that. And in fact, Evan and I just spoke about that this week.
Okay.
Or just a few minutes ago before the meeting.
And always the devil's advocate, what if it isn't installed? Are the bathrooms operational without power?
They're operational, but it's very dark in there.
Right.
So we wouldn't be able to use them without power. So
Okay. Thank you.
Issue
it's
flashlights.
one of the things I'm worrying about right now.
Would you consider putting a generator there? If Delmarva says they can't get to it for a month?
Something to consider, yeah.
Okay.
I don't,
Question about the construction site. I thought I heard that they were taking a break for the summer. They're going to work right through the summer?
yeah, they're going to work right through the summer. The main thing is that they won't have any heavy equipment, the cranes. It'll be the heaviest equipment that they'll have really is when they're bringing the concrete trucks in to pour the foundation.
Okay, thank you.
Explain what work through summer means, because Saturday and Sunday, are they included?
No, they won't work Saturday and Sunday, and they did work the last Saturday trying to get the timber piles in, but I was very clear with them that, talking with the hotels, you have guests on the weekends, and they couldn't, ask them not to do any loud noises before 10:30 on Saturday.
But Patricia, if you would put in your observations, is there a plan B for Memorial Day weekend if the restrooms are not ready to go? Anybody else? We'll move on to the next item, which is, I gave Henry a little list here. Status of, this is all readiness of the Boardwalk and Beach, so it all fits in here together. Status of recycling on the boardwalk and the beach. We know that many years ago, in the 90s, we got a grant from DENREC to do recycling on the beach, and we ended up doing that. However, we just put cans next to trash cans without proper labeling and no constriction on the holes. And our guys were getting dirty diapers in the recycle bins, and they were actually trying to pull out the dirty diapers and stuff. And the gross factor killed that project. And so now, many years later, the Boardwalk and Beach Committee made recommendations to resume it. But they had under their belt this time a follow-up report from DENREC that said, hey, why don't you try a couple new things? And by example, make sure you co-locate a recycle bin next to a trash bin. Make sure you constrict the holes. And they suggested limiting the recycling materials to bottles and cans only that could be put in those cans. So, and just a quick look into those recycle bins. Here's one that says perfectly lovely. It's got bottles and cans and no contamination that I can see. And then you walk to the very next one, and it's got soda straws and drinking utensils and napkins and stuff in there. So it's not a perfect system, but Henry, if you could give us your assessment of the recycling and the trash program on the boardwalk.
Sure. Well, one thing, Mike Peterman and I, we've took a look at a bunch of the recycling ones, and it's funny, like you said, Mayor, there's some where the trash can is empty or pretty much, half full next to it. When you look in the recycling and you see a bunch of trash in the recycle. So I think last summer, about 84% of the recycle bags that were removed were contaminated and just were put in the waste. I know Mike is really striving to get to the cans and the garbage when they're not very full, because that seems to help. We have the crews going till, I think 8 o'clock at night on the beach, that may help. And another thing that when visiting my sister in Ocean City, New Jersey, they had some pizza box recycle containers. And I just ordered 2 of those. Evan and I spoke about it. We figured we'll give it a try, put it on the boardwalk, see if that helps. And both the trash collection and the recycling. And then if they work well, we can order more. We're hoping to have those 2 before the July 4th weekend.
Well, of course, what happens right now is without these recycle lids being locked on or clamped on, people just merely lift it up, put their pizza box in there and put it down, and then that, and unfortunately, even pizza boxes are not the perfect recyclable.
No.
Because if it has cheese in it, then you should compost it, but not recycle it. So, any questions on recycling? Carolyn? I don't know. Check, Chief, check.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. My only thought is, and I don't know if our current lids can be modified, I have a feeling people are putting paper in because they're too lazy to push the trash can open. If that hole were open, they wouldn't have to push on it, and sometimes they're kind of gross. Those lids get nasty. But if that lid were open, sort of like the ones on Rehoboth Avenue, they've got you don't have to push the opening on the trash can on Rehoboth Avenue. It's just got where you can stick the trash in. That would probably help. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a catch-22 because you try to have lids and flaps on there to thwart the bees during the summertime.
And the seagulls think
And
it's
the
the
goal
buffet.
and the goals, yeah. So, anybody else? Patricia?
I've been watching this program for a couple of years, and Kevin Williams has always kept us apprised. And the first couple of years, it was like 90% cross-contamination, and now you're saying it's 80%, so it's getting better, but there's got to be a better way to do this with such a high cross-contamination. And I don't know if we've reached out. What does Ocean City do? What do other cities, other beach towns do? Or do they have the same results? I don't know. It's just something to think about. Because I can't imagine if all these towns have 80% cross-contamination, why you do it? Why spend the money?
Well, I think one of my observations would be to recommend a 1-to-1 ratio of trash and recycle, as we don't quite have that now. Henry said we have about 60 trash bins on the beach, so we're not doing any recycling on the beach. 75 trash bins on the boardwalk, but only 50 recycle bins there. So my recommendation would be to consider a 1-to-1 ratio. Anybody? Why don't you take that microphone back with you?
No, Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. The only thing there is, if a trash can is full and overflowing, that's when I think you get a lot more cross-contamination, because people want to do something with their trash. And if you don't have a trash can for them to put it in because the one's overflowing, they're going to stick it in the recycle. So in some cases, you almost need 2 trash cans to 1 recycle in order to have enough places to put your trash.
Well, the boardwalk committee back when
Yeah.
we recommended this, they said one of the key components to making this work is emptying the trash frequently enough that it doesn't overflow. Because if you go to 2, then you need 3, kind of a thing. If you go to 1, and you're right, if there's no recycle bin next to the trash can, then what do people do? Have you ever been up early on a July 5th or something? It's all piled around and everything. So there's no secret there, but we can check in with others. In fact, I think I have a slideshow of recycling in New Jersey boardwalk towns. I'll see if I can pull that out. Howard?
I hate to be the skeptic on the committee, but we've now talked about this for several years, and we are not the only people facing this. Every report I've seen nationally is that recycling is not working for exactly the reasons that we're facing. There's contamination. I mean, Mayor, I remember when you said you actually saw somebody trying to fold a pizza box and shove it in the hole that says bottles and cans only. People just don't care, or they're lazy. And so I'm not saying we ought to get rid of recycling, but I'm just saying I think we need to lower our expectations. And if it's worth the effort and the money, then let's continue it. But if we decide that it really is more expensive and not really accomplishing the goals, then I think the mayor and commissioners need to reconsider whether we have this program or whether we go to something entirely different.
Sounds good. Anybody else? So I think we've covered recycling. Next on our,
Can I say one
go
thing
ahead.
on that? Also, just an FYI, on Surf Avenue along Deauville Beach, on the street end of it, we do have the trash, and I'm not sure how many recycling containers that, we will pick up still. Those are.
Okay. Next on my list, I've got handicap readiness in 2 categories there: use of beach mats and availability of beach wheels. And my slides, if I can go through them real quick, Henry, before you start. Orient yourself. This is down at Laurel Avenue. This is the condo in between Laurel and Philadelphia. This is the one handicap accessible dune crossing here. You can tell it's handicap accessible from the air, at least, because it's so long with a more gentle slope than these other shorter ones. And if you recall, in past years, we've tried to achieve handicap accessibility with the use of the beach access mats, or Moby mats. We used to have it in this particular configuration. I'm not sure what we have today, but the goal was that these were, I think, 5 feet wide here, mats to get you down to the toe of the dune. And then these were, I think, 6-foot mats to get you along here. And the idea was that those in disabled or in beach wheels or wheelchairs can come all the way down here and set up their different stations here. Then when we go over to, if we take a look at that, maybe Henry will tell us whether that's realized this year. But then we also have up at Maryland Avenue, here's the Boardwalk Plaza. And here's Maryland Avenue. If you can go back in time, you'll see in the old days, we used to have one dune crossing here that went this direction. And that was a regular one. And then we had a handicap one that actually went this way and then turned this way. And when it turned this way, then we could do that same type of configuration, just 180, if you will. It would come down here, and then you would sit on the beach here. Army Corps, I've been trying for years to get them to get rid of this. And I thought last year I was going to accomplish it. And what they did instead is they left this angle here and came out here. So now I have no clue how we're going to do Moby mats, or maybe Henry can explain how that might work up there, because our two main handicap parking space areas are Laurel Street and Maryland Avenue, and that's why we focused on these. Plus, it takes a lot of work to put in and maintain handicap accessible and handicap compliant dune crossings, because they have to be a lower slope than the others. And they've got to have every 30 feet, they have to have a level platform before they then continue going down. So Henry, I've cut into your time on handicap readiness, if you would share with us.
So the Moby mats will be done next week. Installation on them will be completed. We're about 70% done right now. And Mayor, I apologize, I don't know the status of, of the ones you mentioned that go, parallel to the beach. I'll find out though.
Okay. So what is our philosophy here on Moby mats in terms of those aside from Laurel and Maryland that are handicap accessible? In other words, are there another 80 dune crossings from Pennsylvania Avenue all the way down to Prospect, and every one we want to have Moby mats on? Is there a philosophy there? Do you know?
Yeah, most of them will have Moby mats. Virginia and Delaware will not, because that's where the Beach Patrol will need to will be accessing the beach with their ATVs. So those two won't. I believe it's Pennsylvania that will not either, because that's where the sand has built up over the years, and I believe it's 29 total. It's very close to that will have. From north to south.
All I know is when we first started them years ago, we got grants from DENREC that helped pay for them. And ever since then, but 10, 12 years ago, people love these things. And everybody wants them, and they email us, can you put them at my street, in my street? So, but they're costly. I mean, they're $100, I think, a linear foot. At least the Moby mats were when they originally came out. So before I get to you, let me just give you some history here a little bit. So at Laurel, this is the one at Laurel and the one at Maryland. Those are our only two ADA compliant ones. Any others that have blue mats or brown mats are not ADA compliant. So that's one thing. The other thing is, what makes these somewhat successful on the dune crossing is that all the dune crossings are made with gravel underneath and then landscape fabric to keep it from punching into the sand. And with that, in other words, there's a base for these Moby mats. And so you can, if you want, drive ATV on it. Towns in New Jersey drive the big loaders across them and everything. But where they don't have, once they hit the sand, like down here, then they're only on the sand. And that's where the sand sloughs off and you have problems, and you got to have regular maintenance to shovel it and put it back and everything. So go ahead.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident. Henry's going to want to check on that one. I don't believe that would be considered handicap accessible anymore. Over the years, storms have built sand up, and it actually goes up and comes back down when you get about 3/4 of the way across that. So I don't think that one's considered handicap accessible anymore. I think it would take a small front end loader to go in and flatten it out. I want to say it's between that, where what appears to be a little curve and the beach is, that's where it's gotten built up.
All the sand
Yeah,
accretes
from past storms. So
need
I think it would be really beneficial if they could get in there and flatten it out, because it is a nice gradual walk to the beach from there. But They can't use it right now.
I saw a bobcat there this morning.
Oh, so maybe they're working on
They
it.
are working.
Maybe they're working on it. Okay,
So if
thank
we can
you.
put an observation to confirm ADA compliance with, at the Moby Mat.
But
Anybody else? Go ahead, Jimmy.
in years, just to answer the question, in years past, and correct me if I'm wrong, from what I remember, that was part of the process of installing them prior to, whatever date was set over the years, that they would get in there, and as the storms would accumulate all the sand and everything, they would level it off.
Yeah,
so it
and
would
they've
be-
definitely been doing that on the normal ones.
Yeah.
Like yesterday morning, I watched them carry sand up, put a little bit of sand on, and then flatten out so that they had their nice flat base
Yeah.
to roll it out. But that one would require a lot more, and it's narrower because it's got the handrails on both sides.
Right.
So the front end loader I saw yesterday would not, I don't think it would fit on this one.
Thank you, Carolyn. Any other questions? Anything on?
I would just add that for all the reasons that you mentioned, Mayor, where it's most difficult is also where it's most required. Because along the sand, I mean, if you take a wheelchair down the Moby
Going
Mats,
down here
yep,
at the
if
terminus.
you hit there, and it's only sand, you're done. I mean, you just can't, even in the beach wheels, it's very difficult. So I would say, I know it requires more money and I know it requires more effort, but we've always been committed to making sure accessibility was as extensive as we can. So I would encourage to make sure both of those two are truly ADA accessible, and if at all possible, to encourage others. I remember, it was either last year or the year before, we added those strips that are parallel to the shore, and there was a major reaction in the positive to people who use the Moby Mats. It's hard to describe how big a difference it makes, rather than just sort of dead ending as you come off the dune. So again, if we can do it anywhere at all, I would encourage that we do so.
And we have missed, I think we have missed summers in the past where this Moby Mat parallel to the toe of the Dean was missing. Was missing. And I think this to me is the key component of it. This is getting access, but this is allowing people to sit on the beach. So what I'm hearing is maybe we need to investigate whether or not we can expand the base beyond this a little bit. It all becomes a challenge when you have storms coming and washes it away, and we've got DENREC partners to deal with that may say you can't put gravel in beyond the toe of the dune. Then what do you do? And if you recall, exactly where we're putting this sitting mat, if you will, is right where the transition to the dune is, and it puts you on an angle. So it is problematic. It is a big challenge. Anybody else?
Just have one quick question. So last year we had, I think 85% or 90 of the entrances that had mats on them, and they were going to order some more. This is last year, so I don't know what's happened. But will all of the entrances have mats on them for the beach now?
Except for the Virginia, thank you, Delaware, and I think Pennsylvania, where it's over the
big hump.
Yeah, the big hump. I believe every other one will have mats.
Okay, thank you.
So that's a goal. Tell us about beach wheels here. How many do we have? Do you know?
I apologize. I don't know the number, but what we have will be out. Some will be out this week, and the rest will be out next week.
Well, you told me 10, so
Okay.
use that.
We'll use 10 then. We'll go with that.
These are not cheap, and I don't know if the city purchased them now or not, but in the old days, different groups like the VIA or homeowners would donate them to the city. This is just a variety of different ones, but I wanted you to see the prices there. This one is more for, I call it for lakes, because it actually, you push it into the water and it floats. but you can imagine it wouldn't work well if there's any wave action. And then in the past, we just had them there, and people would go into the sheds and take them, and then they wouldn't put them back where there was no monitoring, and they would get broken. We would probably lose half of them a year, so that's what, $8,000 a year lost. And then I guess 3 or 4 years ago, the Beach Patrol took them over. So now they're at two places. They're stored at a place in the north, at a place in the south. And you've got to call them, and they'll come down and get them ready for you. So we're doing a lot better with monitoring. And so we've got 10, which is good. So 5 for the north and 5 for the south. Any questions? And these are, you can see that with the balloon tires, these are actually for rolling down on the beach, and you can roll them to the water's edge. Where the Moby mats can accommodate these certainly, but the Moby mats are for the regular wheelchairs and even the electric wheelchairs. What is our beach rake program? You indicated you start at 3 a.m.?
Yes, people that do, they punch in at 3 a.m. And right now we're on a 7-day schedule. And in previous years with Deauville, they used to do the north end at one day and the south end the other day. Not having to do Deauville, we're able to get a lot more of the beach done every day, and we'll continue that, basically. Get as much as we can every day, start at one end. You know, when we're on the north end, we go to the edge of Deauville. So
The beach today is full of phragmitis. It lines the whole beach down at the tide where the tide actually breaks onto the beach. So it may need extra raking tomorrow,
okay,
for sure.
all right, thank you.
Anybody else? We're going to move on to associated staffing, I call it. The Beach Patrol, just FYI, the Beach Patrol has 65 lifeguards. And the Beach Patrol is not just lifeguards. They've got medical staff, and they also have administration there. So 65 lifeguard positions are full. Steve Carson, you asked about ambassadors that we've done in the past. Yes, we're going to have 3 ambassadors this year. They rotate on and off, so there's not necessarily 3 at the same time, but they're the ones in lieu of the lifeguards checking on people smoking and directing them to the smoking areas and making approaches on tents and canopies and things like that. And then, Chief, I assume that if ambassador has a problem, then they would probably call it into the police. So I don't know, do ambassadors go up and say, hey, you can't be drinking alcohol on the beach? Or do they avoid doing that and instead call you in?
They will make the initial contact, the approach, and if they don't get compliance, then call a police officer down.
Sounds good. So that program's working, and I think Bethany Beach has twice as many ambassadors for a shorter beach, I think. But our program seems to be working pretty well. Anybody? Delaware Avenue restrooms are already open. Men's and women's trailers, temporary office, foot showers and shower towers. Beach roll, there we go. Shower towers and stuff. This has kind of been one of my pet peeves in past years. We've been doing very good lately, but if you remember, there's a grate down at the base of these that gets wet all the time, and it grows green mold and mildew and stuff. And a couple of years they forgot about them, and then they started, I think, a regular program of power washing them. Henry, do y'all do that? Because they look cleaner.
In the beginning of the year, they got, everything got cleaned, and when they got turned on, I'll be frank with you, I don't know the maintenance on a regular basis, during the summer.
Okay. Let's let's see, transition management of Deauville Beach. I just threw that in. It's not on the agenda. I think the intent here is just for me to tell you that if you Google Deauville Beach Transition Facts, FAQS, you'll get everything that's the latest published by DENREC on there. Also, the DENREC contact that I've been giving out is the public information officer is Shauna McVeigh, SHAUNA, McVeigh, MCVEY. She is the PIO, but she is also the contact that if anybody has a problem with trash or anything, any problems at Deauville Beach, they are to call her. It's because she's the representative of DENREC. And her email is Shauna, SHAUNA, dot McVeigh, MCVEY, at delaware.gov. And her phone is 302-739-9220. So she's a direct contact. And I will say that Chief Banks has an excellent rapport with the DENREC police down there. Evan now has a great rapport with his contacts for Deauville Beach. So again, they're doing their thing. They have their own parking permits and parking fees and their own rules. Some of them coincide with ours and some do not. But again, if you Google it and look it up, you'll be able to see. With that, you have anything else you want to share, Henry, on anything in general?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Commissioners or the public?
I just have one request, I guess. I get a lot of people who, are on the boardwalk, because we're all down here all the time. It was benches on the boardwalk. If there could be, someone could take a look at that, because it seemed a little thin. There seemed to be concentrated between Rehoboth Avenue, but then as you get further down north and south, there aren't as many. And it's nice when you're of a certain age and you can't make the whole mile, walk yourself to be able to stop and sit on the benches. And it's also nice for families and people just come and look at the ocean. So if there are extra and you can find some places to put them, that would be great.
At one time in the old days, this committee did an inventory of all the bicycle racks. So they took a look at where there were extra platforms and where bicycle racks would go, made recommendation, if you recall, that more platforms have to go in here, here, and here. They even inventoried all the bike racks and said, this one needs to be single-sided, this one double-sided, this one you need twice the length of it. And I thought that was a good program that could maybe be expanded to the benches. Everything gets moved. Our crews move them for maintenance and everything, but there's no program on remembering where they go back. So maybe that's something that could be done in the future there or something. So before Henry leaves and the chief leaves, is there any other, we want to go on to member observations. Is there anything else that we want to pass
Mayor,
on?
if we can go back to Deauville Beach for a second. Is DENREC allowing dogs down there?
Allowing dogs.
Not during the summer. There's signs that say no
Deauville
dogs
Beach?
on Deauville Beach.
Yeah, in
There's
fact-
signs that say no dogs on the.
Are they our signs or are they
Here, look,
DENREC signs?
Look,
There's signs right there, yeah.
this, I understand from Evan that we have already maybe put up some signs at the dividing line at Pennsylvania Avenue. But I didn't get up there to take a sign. I think, who took a picture of this? And so you think these were signs put up by DENREC? Okay.
Okay.
Why the double emphasis, I don't know, but that's only at the dividing line, maybe Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not
Is
allowed
it
in Rehoboth
Pennsylvania?
either.
Not in the summertime, correct. So, yeah, so this message is actually to people who are illegally walking their dogs on Rehoboth Beach.
Right.
Don't bring your dog into the state park.
I saw a woman this morning walking down the boardwalk with her dog, and I thought, it's just,
Anybody else,
hard.
personal observations, things that need attention or questioning, or before we let the chief and Henry go?
my observation on walking this morning is things look pretty good. There are a few spots but where they could use an extra bench, but really not too many. It looked to me like it was nice and clean and like we're ready to go.
Anybody by chance go into men's or women's restrooms to see, are they
did.
pretty clean?
That I didn't go into the trailers because there was a tape across it, obviously, but yeah, just the women's and the changing rooms, and they looked pretty good. Yeah.
I know we've had, just as an aside, we've had trouble, I think, with the changing rooms at Delaware Avenue where the doors don't come to the bottom. And I think that was intentional so that you could see if there was any hanky-panky going on. And unfortunately, I think kids, I guess, are trying to look underneath and look up in there. And so they are, I think, today even working on extending the length of those doors, Henry?
Yeah, that's correct. We had some graffiti there several weekends ago. What, Chief, about 3 weeks or so ago? Yeah, and we
On
had,
the inside?
on the inside of the changing rooms, and we had to repaint it.
Kids also like to climb under and lock the door and then leave it locked. But today they were all open. They were all open.
Good, good. Well, this doesn't have to end our observations. You know, more could come in later. They can come in periodically during the summer, send them to me as acting chair, and I'll be glad to forward them on, and we'll monitor those things. Brian?
Could I just ask Chief, please, when are the summer cadets? When will we see them on the boardwalk?
Thank you. Today is actually the first day they've started. The 4 weeks of training is concluded last weekend with bike training. So this weekend they're out and about as they can come in from college. And so unfortunately we did only hire 10 this year for several different reasons. But
Accommodation.
but I will sit there and say the ones we got, I believe, are going to be good and very committed to the job. And so there'll be a learning curve, but they're coming in. I think 2 this morning came in at 7. I think we have 3 more coming in at 11. So they'll be walking and get acclimated to the area because it's the first time they'll actually be on the streets.
Great. Hence the lack of dogs on the beach this morning.
Correct. The one thing I always remind, and we go over this in training really extensively, comfort dogs aren't allowed, but service dogs are. Unfortunately, we can only ask a person, stop them, and ask if it's does the animal, meet the standards, and ask 2 questions. And but if they answer and say they're a service dog, even if they're not, they're a comfort dog, we can't argue that. They're not required by federal law or state law to show paperwork, have any identification on them. So once they say that, it's fine. One of the things we do run into, I've had excuse me, people come up to my officers or even call my office and say, well, that's fine, we understand that, but the officers could make contact with them and inform them. Well, remember, a lot of these, they're out there every day. The summer officers, they know who they spoke to, who they haven't. They could be somebody staying for a week or they're a resident year-round, so maybe they've already done it. If you continue to ask the person over and over and stop them once you know that they've been asked once, and then you could get into a harassment kind of thing. So we are out there doing it. We sit down with the officers, a lot of extensive training on that, what you can and cannot do. And unfortunately, people are just not respectful of that and not always as honest as they should be with it. It's always concerning when you have somebody have 2 animals, small dogs, in their hands and sit there and say their support for the husband and wife or whatever. They both have the same issue. But again, we can't argue that. That very well could be true, but most time it's probably not.
Chief, I have one criticism, if you will. The cadets, sometimes when they're on the boardwalk by the bandstand, tend to talk to each other rather than look around, see what's going on?
Will not disagree. Again, it's a constant thing. We go over it in training. It's again part of being a young age. First time down and at the beach. It's not making excuses because it's totally wrong. But feel free to give me a call or whatever. Once we identify, or sometimes we'll even take a photograph of them themselves. And when they come back or whatever, there's different things that we do to try to emphasize the point that they cannot be doing that. But it is a concern with a 19, 20-year-old. Yes.
One other question about the dogs. So you can walk up to somebody and ask them if it's a support dog, but you can't ask them like what support it provides?
You can ask what that's the second question you ask, what do they do, but the reality is if they say if it's for seizures or if they can make any one of the ones that are allowed, we can't question that. We have to take them at their word and stuff. So that's just how the law is written. Again, no identification is required, no training for the certain dogs necessarily that they need to provide to show that or have any kind of vest or carrier. And we run in that all the time. Matter of fact, this morning with the summer officer out, that's already happened to them. I heard them on the radio calling in and asking, well, what do you do? Because I don't think that's accurate. And we just told them, just move on.
Well, Chief, having chaired this group for 10 years or more, I think probably dogs on the beach, dogs on the boardwalk is probably the number one issue. And so I understand what you're saying. I've known for years that your inability to go up and question owners about dog stuff. But I think what some people are complaining about is bad behavior, and particularly the dog waste on the beach and the dog waste on the boardwalk. That is something that I think our seasonals could be reinforced to make sure they don't walk away from and look the other way, that we could do a little better job on that.
Definitely agree with that, Ed. And again, I would never make excuses with how the dunes go, and that's why we have the ambassadors. We've started implementing that to try to help out, because at the end of the day, the summer officer's main job is actually the boardwalk and the streets, and not necessarily on the beach. Because we just don't have the personnel to sit there and do that. And if they're on the beach, then we're concerned where they at down at the bandstand, or don't see them on the boardwalk and things like that. So it's constantly moving them back and forth. We did actually invest 2 years ago with a new UTV that actually has computer and things inside it, so we can actually write citations and any summons right from the vehicle. I think that's been that's usually we do that in the morning. That's been successful. We've actually made several given several citations last year and even in the fall and spring for bad behavior. To quote what you said, but it is a constant thing. But yes, we absolutely can do better. And again, that was stressed again in the seasonal training.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else?
Mayor, I just wanted to add to that. It's tough, bad behavior is one of those things that we face. It's human nature, unfortunately. But I just want to compliment the chief and his whole department. I think generally they do a great job. They keep the city safe. Given the priorities, I'd rather you keep the city safe than pick up dog poop. But, you guys are trying to do all of that, and I really compliment it. The summer cadet programs works well, and I know how difficult it is to get people and to find housing and to do all of that. So with the resources you have, the department's really been doing a great job, and I'm sure this summer will be the same.
Thank you. That certainly means a lot. And we understand there's always work to sit there and do and try to build the officers' confidence. Like this afternoon, I'll be walking with them, just try to get one-on-one to sit there and to build their confidence up, because kind of getting into the weeds, but the first few weeks is just getting them used to being on a radio. They've never talked on radio, so even if they see something, they're almost a little timid at times to call things in. That's not in them. Just imagine yourself. Everybody's listening to you on a statewide radio system, and it's just trying to get used to it. Am I calling the right street in? Am I the correct code? So we continue to work with them to get their feet underneath of them, but thank you for that. Anything else?
Thank you.
One other question. Are any of those cadets returning from last year or previous years?
Two. We do have two returning. Again, there's a lot of some reasons why we only got 10, but with the returnings last year, we almost every one of them got full-time jobs. Either in the career field they chose. Not all summer officers that come on want to be a police officer. We have doctors and lawyers and everything else that come through here that just want a different perspective or something different for the summer. So every one of them, the majority got full-time jobs in the career of their choosing. And also the two who came back or, follow up in their junior and senior year of college.
Thank you.
Chief, if you would, explain Ocean City, Maryland's philosophy now. I think they're getting away from seasonals and instead hiring more full-timers.
That is correct. This will be Ocean City, Maryland's last summer season with the seasonal officers with arrest powers. They will still have certain support staffing that's inside, help with processing calls and how they integrate their parking and all with our seasonal program. But again, it's housing, it's in Ocean City too. It's just expense and the amount of training that you have to go to. They have 2 full-time recruiters year-round, and they need over 100 officers each year, and for years and years they couldn't get them no matter how much training and recruiting they went around to do. So they've decided, they started this probably 3 or 4 years ago, hiring more full-time police officers, and that's what they've been doing to the point now that they feel as confident as they can be, that they have the staffing levels to say this their last summer with the summer officers.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Henry. We appreciate you coming. You don't have to hang around. We appreciate it. Next item of business is review of cell phone standards focusing on boardwalk and boardwalk adjacent buffers design zones. There's 2 zones in the code that are in close proximity to the boardwalk. One is the boardwalk zone where it's actually regulating what happens on the boardwalk, and then there's a boardwalk adjacent zone. I didn't really intend to go into this deep. I did put a link to the code on there so you could look at it. There are no permits pending for anything on the boardwalk or the boardwalk adjacent zones. There are some permits pending for other areas in the community. But the thing I think to be mindful of is when you look for these 2 zones and read the codes is the cell phone provider, in order to get a permit to put something in the boardwalk, say the boardwalk zone, needs to mirror the type of light that's already there. And that's a big challenge for them because but that was what is important to our constituents, that we do no harm to the view shed of the boardwalk and everything. So nothing pending right now. But again, take a look at the link in there. Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Overnight, suddenly, a cell tower appeared next to Gus and Gus, right next to the boardwalk, a couple months ago, I guess. But it has no aesthetics to it. I mean, it's really unattractive. And my question is, with all of the ordinances you and the commissioner spent writing, this doesn't seem to follow the ordinances in terms of appearance. So do they have to submit a picture when they submit their application so you know what it's going to look like?
Yeah, they did.
But we knew it was going to look like that.
Apparently so.
Okay.
Came in under the radar. I wasn't familiar with it until I read it in the paper. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, all right, thank you.
With that, then, if there's no questions on cell towers, we'll go to a review status of any offshore wind farm projects in close proximity to Rehoboth Beach. Again, I intend to spend a lot of time on this. That's a picture from abroad, but it's just in there for flavor. The U.S. Wind, if you can see this area, U.S. Wind owns the lease rights for putting the wind farm here. So when we talk, or you hear about U.S. Wind's wind farm, they're talking about this area here. And as you can see, it's right off the shore from Fenwick Island. and off the shore of Ocean City, Maryland. So you can see why they've been very vocal about it, because they will have the most impact about the view shed from these lease areas there. This area up here that's faint is the proposed lease area for Orsted. And you can see Orsted, if they realize their project, would be directly off the shores of Rehoboth Beach and Bethany Beach. I embedded in the agenda the latest update I got from the U.S. Wind representative, Mike Dunmeyer. And he's indicated basically that if you recall from our from earlier talks, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, BOEM, is looking at their permitting. They're expected to issue a record of decision July 31st, and that's where they either approve the projects, disapprove, or approve with modifications. But then after that, there's a final construction and operations plan approval, September 27. So toward the end of the year, we would expect to hear more about this and whether they get going or not. Because if they do get the permits, then they would likely start construction, onshore construction, means burying wires and such, in 2025, and then the following year probably start on the wind farms out in the ocean. Yes, sir.
But Mayor, just to be clear, as I understand it, U.S. Wind's plans do not involve any onshore construction within Rehoboth Beach, correct?
Correct. Down toward 3 R's Beach, south of us. And most of it's underground directional drilling, so we're not going to see a lot of it anyhow, or most of it. So that is, and you got to remember, this is a federal project. Even the state of Delaware doesn't really have any say-so in it. It's going to be what it's going to be. Where Delaware does have their fingers in it is permitting where the landlines come from the shore, underneath the shore on Delaware lands. And so Delaware's been working with them on that. Orsted, I got a late, Orsted, these folks up here, they recently made the news because they withdrew a project up in New Jersey. And apparently some of New Jersey's right here. And so apparently there's some areas, lease areas up here that are going to be impacted and not going to happen. But they haven't let go of these leases from what I understand, but the project is slowed down. So this is the one that I think we want to keep an eye on. But again, we don't have a lot of say-so, unfortunately, unless we go the route that Fenwick Island and Ocean City, Maryland, and that is to do lawsuits, which can be costly and lengthy. So that's basically it. I think the message is stay tuned, and if you see these workshops and such, maybe consider going to them and see what it's all about. Any questions, comments? So with that, I want to go to the next item, which is discuss status of committee recommendation that the mayor and commissioners pursue historical designation status for the boardwalk. In our last minutes of July 28th that were just approved today, there was the following, discuss historical designation of boardwalk structures. A lengthy discussion was held regarding the possible historic designation status of the boardwalk. It was the unanimous opinion of this committee that the city of Rehoboth should recognize the historical significance of the boardwalk, which was built in 1873. There are 3 possible levels of historical designation. A state historical marker, that's this kind of thing that's in front of us here, which is very easy to get. You make application and they say, okay. They say, what kind of wording do you want, or do you want us to help you with wording? And then they take care of the cost generally through a state legislator. that sponsors it and pays for it. And then you schedule for it to come in and all that stuff. So that's the easiest, I think, of the other ones. So that's one, a state historical marker. And by the way, we've got, this is the one at the end of Rehoboth Avenue. There's another one over on this side, just out of view, sponsored by the VIA on the
The waterfront.
life. Yeah, no, the Temperance Fountain has a plaque.
Right.
A brass plaque, but it has to do with the lifeline that went out into the ocean to tow people back. So we've got some there. We got them in front of the library in different places and everything. One of the concerns with this kind of marker in the old days of this committee, concern with with proliferation of these. Since anybody can apply for them, any citizen can apply for them and put them anywhere, but there is a clause in there that the municipality or jurisdiction has to give an okay. And this committee was concerned about that in the next 10 years, can we get 20 more of these plaques and a visual blight perhaps or something? So that was a concern in the old days. So 3 possible levels of historic designation: state historical marker, designation as a national historic place, and designation as a national historic landmark. The committee agreed that they would recommend to the mayor and commissioners pursue historical designation status for the boardwalk and would welcome the opportunity to assist with the application for whatever level they determined to be appropriate. I have to admit, as mayor, I don't recall ever getting anything from this committee. If it did, it's my fault, and I apologize, but I don't remember. So I would like for maybe the secretary to look and see if anything actually was created and sent to the mayor. And so regardless, if you all still believe in this, then I'd like perhaps you designate 1 or 2 persons to work with me so we can bring this in front of the commissioners at some point. So if anybody's interested, I'd like to.
Well, one of the reasons that we were looking at the National Historic Landmark designation, although it's the hardest, and Howard has looked into this, it does give the city certain advantages for if you want grants, to get grants. And it also, if something were to happen to the boardwalk, it also would provide some federal funding. So there's some protection there. So that was one of the reasons we thought it would be good to pursue it.
Well, you just jogged my memory, because one of the reasons this came up is because Bohm started recruiting me as mayor to talk about historic impact of the wind farms. And so this was a national thing going on. And so I forwarded it to then Chair Jay Legree and started looking into all that. And I think Jay and I both misread it in that we thought that if we could get a historic designation, then it would maybe thwart some of the wind farms, not necessarily make it stop, but maybe suggest that they be pushed another 5 miles off the shore or something. And looking at other New Jersey towns and their historic nature of even a building, a historic building on the shoreline is impacted, because they've looked out for 200 years over the ocean and there's been a pristine horizon. Now all of a sudden they're going to have wind farms there. But I haven't really found that it really has any impact on anything.
Well, you're talking about the view shed, and I know Jimmy looked into this, but the view shed in New Jersey, the condominiums actually went forward with the view shed issue. And they were saying it's going to, if they're on the 5th, 6th, 7th floor, that the view shed would diminish the value of their condominium, and therefore the condominium building. So that was the other aspect that we were looking at, but we couldn't do it as a city. We'd have to go to the various condominiums along the boardwalk, and they would have to file any type of view shed.
There was an article in the paper, I guess, within the last 2 months that Old Dominion, they're the wind farm people in Virginia, off the coast there, Virginia Beach, I believe, that they were required to pay out to some group for interrupting their view shed. And I need to find that article and see, 'cause I don't know if there's cash on the table. I think that's a little too easy to think something like that would happen. But if y'all would talk among yourself and see if you can find any letter that went to the mayor or commissioners. And if not, then maybe we can generate something. And I'd like to work with whoever. Maybe it's you, Howard, because some people pointed the finger to you earlier as the most knowledgeable, so that we can tweak and outline a presentation to the commissioners.
Yeah, Patricia, if you want to, just for the purpose of the minutes, I'll work with you on getting a letter to the mayor and commissioners on the subject of historical designation.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Thank you. With that, we're going to move on. There is no new business identified, and as far as discuss potential future Boardwalk and Beach Committee meetings, I indicated earlier that the commissioners are looking at an ongoing process to decide whether to sunset committees and whether to form a single generalist committee. And so that kind of puts us on hold a little bit unless we have any ongoing business, as I mentioned earlier. So with that.
Mayor,
yes,
if I could.
yes.
Not today, but sometime in the future, we're going to have to discuss about what's going to happen with the 2 new hotels that are being built on the boardwalk. How we're going to handle that.
Well, that would be new business, so until we resolve this
Okay.
committee thing, one case, if the committee thing doesn't work, then we would likely come back here and tell the commissioners we would like to talk about this topic, this topic, this topic, get their blessing, and we go forward. And if the generalist committee comes up, then they would be doing that asking, and they would be looking at that kind of
Okay.
thing. So we're up in the air a little bit and everything. With that, good of the order. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share or add, or anybody? If not, then we'll call this meeting adjourned at 10:23 a.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you.